Well, hey, everybody. Jessica Coulter here. We are talking about part 2 of cramming for finals. Today's focus, the pre-work, the preparation that your teen, your college student, your young adult needs to do before officially sitting down to have that cram session. Now, before I dive into these 3 different parts of preparation, I want to know, what is your number one question about finals? Like, what is your number one question about your teen who is in a position that he needs to, or she finds herself needing to cram? Let me know what your question is below so I can answer it here in this video or even in the next. I want to let you know that hopefully I'll be talking better as we go, but also do know that I have a free resource available to you, to your teens, to make sure there's actually enough time next semester so there's no cramming going to happen. So drop the word time below and I'll send that your way after the video. But hopefully you've answered that question as to what is your question, so we can move into these 3 things that your team needs to do before that cram session. Number 1 is to gather information. Okay, and when I say gather information, I'm talking about from the teacher. Okay, if your teen's going to cram, like we talked about yesterday, the expectations are very, very different than if your teen has weeks, months to prepare. Okay, if your teen is just going for the night before the test, or even like 2 or 3 hours before the test, what can your teen do to cram? Well, your teen needs to have some information. He needs to know, okay, what material is even on the test? Is it cumulative? Is it this most recent chapter? Is it 70% of this chapter and 2% of this? And like one question is going to be about this. Your teen needs to gather that information. Now, this all depends on the teacher. Some teachers are going to be very much, here's the study guide. Once you know this, you'll know 80% of the test. Or there's going to be some teachers, it's everything that I've taught you, so be ready. And that can be things they've written on the board, things your student was supposed to read. These can be things that your teen has done on homework. I mean, it really is up to the teacher what information he or she provides about the content on the final. Okay. Now, your teen also needs to find out, and this can again happen from the teacher. This can even happen from other students who've had the teacher before, or as we're in the spring, maybe your teen has an advantage and has already taken a final from this teacher. But your teen needs to know, okay, what's this test, this final, this whatever we're preparing for, what's it going to look like format-wise? Is this a multiple choice test? Is this going to be essay questions? Is this a 2-hour test? Like, your teen needs those details about content and formatting and time, okay? Because if your teen doesn't test well, and we know 100 questions in an hour, and 50 of them are multiple choice, and 30 of them are matching, and then the rest are essay questions or short answer questions, your teen needs to be prepared on how to manage his or her time, okay? So that's the first tip when we're doing pre-work, when we're getting prepared for that cram session, is we're gathering information from the teacher. Now, once your teen has this information and has an idea of which chapters are important, or knows I'm going to do lots and lots of writing, or it's going to be super easy because it's just matching, your teen then needs to gather materials. Okay, so remember, it could be a study guide, it could not. If your teen doesn't know if the teacher provides those or not, your teen needs to ask. I teach self-advocacy in my Love to Learn study program, and I gotta tell you, if your teen never asks for something like what's on the test, or can you guide me in the right direction as to what to study, or would you even tell me exactly what to study, the teacher might not ever tell your teen, because why would the teacher help if, it's not asked for? That is the mentality of some people out there, let alone college professors. Okay. Now, when your teen's gathering materials, it could be anything like his notes, it could be anything like all her textbooks, it could be things like homework, it can be anything and everything the teacher's provided. Like I said, it could be handouts, it could be things on the board. It just depends on the teacher. So your teen needs to know what are those resources he has access to study from. Because there could be things that your teen just hasn't been using all semester because he's been too lazy, or she didn't know about him, or maybe the teacher, said him like the very first day, or it's on the syllabus, and your teen just forgot about him. So we definitely need to sometimes ask classmates, and sometimes a professor, sometimes other siblings. I mean, we just need to know, what should I study, and then what can I study from. Okay. So one more thought here for you on how to get your teen prepared for that cram session. Before I share it though, I want to say hey to everybody watching. Thank you, mamas, for watching here on Facebook and on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow the Ace Cookie Tutoring business page and YouTube channel, because there are more tips coming your way to help your teen with this cram session, as well as future study sessions that hopefully are not as fast paced, that aren't as frantic, and help your teen actually have some of these resources to study for in the future, whether it's taking better notes, whether it's actually keeping track of those notes through organization, or even making sure, okay, how do I have those skills to ask for help? Okay, so definitely hit that follow button, subscribe, so I can help you and I can help your teen love to learn. So I promised you one more tip to get your teen prepared for this next cram session, and that is your teen needs to choose the location as well as his study buddies, or kind of the study setup. So if we're talking finals like we are this week, there are going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of students studying. So your teen needs to decide, am I going to work out a situation with my roommate, with my siblings? Is the library where I need to go? And again, with it being this season, are there going to be places for me to study in the library? Are there study rooms that I can reserve? Do I need to be prepared to have a horde of people all at the same table with me? Okay. And your teen also needs to decide, am I studying by myself or with friends or some kind of study group? Because again, depends on the school, depends on your teen, depends on the class. Are there going to be groups set up by the teacher, by the school, by the tutoring center? What exactly does your teen have access to? And remember, we'll talk about this more later this week, but how your teen studies, whether it's by himself or the group, and what tools he actually uses during that study session, very, very dependent on what works for your teen. So your teen needs to know how he learns, what his learning style is. And again, that's something we'll talk about more here, but if you've got questions, feel free to drop them below, or even ask me one-on-one. Would love to talk to you and your teen through a talk with Jessie. So you can definitely do that at the link in my bio. And look forward to seeing you for the next video. And I can't wait to share this resource I have for you that's going to help your teen actually manage his time better for next semester, for the next final. So if you want this free resource that's going to help your teen not have to have cram sessions in the future, drop the word time, T-I-M-E, below so I can send you the resource. Thanks for watching. Have a good night, mamas. And we'll see you tomorrow for another video all about cram sessions. Bye.